What is it? I believe that we're looking at a city of the lost continent of Atlantis.
Welcome to Channel 13's Public Access, the show where we dive deeper into our Story Beneath series and sometimes just do random other things. But today, Kane is bringing us part 2, long-awaited sequel to Ignatius Donnelly.
First part went a little longer than we intended. We didn't even actually get into the actual book. That's what we're going to do now.
Just for anyone who hasn't watched the first part, we went into a little bit of Ignatius Donnelly's life, what he wrote, what he has done, and today we are going to be single-handedly focusing on his Atlantis book.
Truly fascinating.
Fascinating character. I mean, in the story he writes, which is obviously kind of a self-insert, which I've learned is kind of the metaphor for the times, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like, why? There's a lot of self-insert characters.
This episode could go just as long, if not longer, because it depends on how much we discuss, because there's a lot to go into here. So
we're basically going to go into the details of what
we're here for.
Yeah, as opposed to the quick 5-minute summary we did in Story Beneath, we are going to dive deep into this book now.
Yeah. All right, so I will give a couple of caveats here. So there is a lot of interesting stuff in this book. It is also incredibly tedious at parts. I'm not going to go in detail on a lot of those things. I'm going to give the broad strokes on them because it's just, there are things where like literally he's just like listing things off and
like ranting. Not really ranting, but I do get what you're saying. Ranting. He's going to make a statement and be like, now here's a list of things that no one can do, because we'll have to go through this whole list. Like, you'll have to disprove all of these things to prove that I'm wrong. Like,
I don't think he never has the like prove me wrong kind of mentality. But yeah, it's the
here's all my evidence, and like if you can't prove all of it, then this still seems like it could be true. Like, or disprove all of it.
So, and I'll another one is a lot of this. The science we're going to hear, it sounds crazy to us, but for its time, it was relevant science. It's where science was at the time.
Right.
He's not, like, he's putting things together in the wrong ways. He's connecting things that don't necessarily connect, but the individual bits of science that he uses were accurate for the time.
Should we do some prerequisite on what they kind of believed at the time, what the scientific ideology was?
I'll have to get into it because there's a few. I'll have to get into it
as you go. Yeah,
but yeah, everything in here was relevant for the time.
Okay,
right, and he's a well-read. Like the thought of himself as an intellectual, even though the academic community kind of tore him apart on this book, but he thought of himself as a part of the intellectual field, and so he tried to incorporate those things when he was talking about them.
So a lot of the science. And that's like a lot of these ideas, they're not his. The way they're put together are his, but the individual bits of science and ideology are not his. He's just putting them all together.
I'm sure we're going to see some Rudebeck DNA for those of you who remember the Story Beneath.
Yeah, there's
quite a bit.
There's a lot of similarities between the way they did things that we'll get into. But yeah, I do want those two things known because just for the sake of fair criticism and for understanding. Like, he wasn't totally off on the science.
Okay.
Alright, so this book is divided up into 5 parts. I debated how to present this because he has chapters dedicated to specific things, but say I'll use language for instance. There is a section dedicated to just language, but it's also just scattered throughout the entire book.
Okay.
So I debated going by subject. I'm just going to go through it in order. Again, if certain things I'm not going to go into huge detail on certain things. Again, because there's just a lot, and it's not just for time. It's just tedious.
Right.
This was like a 490-page book. It took me a while to get through.
All right. Some
parts were just rough.
Like I'm looking for Atlantis, I'm ready to dive deep into this.
All right,
let's go to Ignatius Donnelly, the Antediluvian world. Q.
All right, so,
That's a sweet ass title, by the way.
For
The
anyone who doesn't
Antediluvian
know
world.
what antediluvian means, it refers to the period of the biblical period from the creation of man up until the flood. Antediluvian literally means like before the deluge, pre-deluge.
Pre-flood time.
Yes. So that's what antediluvian means, just for the sake. All right, so
I mean, it's a sweet ass word.
yeah.
I didn't have to know the
It'd be cool if
definition.
there's dinosaurs in it.
So part one, the history of Atlantis. So chapter 1 is the purpose of the book. So he lists 13 things that he's going to prove with this book. So the things he wants to prove: that there once existed in the Atlantic Ocean, opposite the mouth of the Mediterranean, a large island, remnants of which are Atlantis. I'm not going to read these specifically. I'm going to sum them up.
Okay.
Because again, 13 things.
It's 13.
The description of the island as given by Plato is not a fable, but veritable history. The Atlantis was the region where man first rose from a state of barbarism to civilization. Number 3. 4. It was the reason for a lot of the great civilizations. So, Gulf of Mexico, Mississippi River, Amazon, the Pacific Coast.
It's the hub that it branched
it
out
spread out to
from.
all of those.
Yeah.
It was the true antediluvian world. The Garden of Eden, the gardens of Hesperides. I'm not sure if I'm getting these right. Hesperides, the Elysian Fields. He goes on.
All of these mythical lands were
Olympus,
part
Asgard.
Yeah.
All these things were actually Atlantis.
Atlantis' empire.
Yeah.
Number 6, the gods and goddesses of the Greeks, the Phoenicians, the Hindus, and the Scandinavians were all the kings and queens of Atlantis.
That is
Okay,
that's an incredible. I can't wait to see how he tries to thread that.
Because
needle.
there's so many. There's so many gods.
I like that he leaves out the one true God, though, the Christian God. That's nice.
So, number 8 is that the oldest colony of Atlantis was probably Egypt.
Okay.
Why?
And he'll get into that.
Yeah, at the time, I think it was considered to be like one of the oldest civilizations in the world.
And their civilization was a reproduction of Atlantis. And number 9 is the implements of the Bronze Age of Europe were derived from Atlantis. And Atlantis was the first manufacturers of iron.
Yeah? That's so far advanced. That is a leap and a half. There's like 30,000.
So here, and this is, I'm reading this exactly, this is the way he says it, that the Phoenician alphabet, parent of all the European alphabets, was derived from an Atlantis alphabet, which was conveyed from Atlantis to the Maya. Atlantis was the original seat of the Aryan or Indo-European family of nations, as well as the Semitic peoples and possibly the Turanian race.
Yeah, white people.
Which we'll get into.
What is Turanian race?
I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it. It's Central Asia.
Oh, okay. I see.
So,
I see. The seats of empires. I see.
I look like white people.
Iranish area.
Okay.
Number 12.
Yeah, those are all historical seats of empires, right? I'm pretty sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Number 12 is that Atlantis perished in a terrible convulsion of nature in which the whole island sunk to the ocean with nearly all of its inhabitants.
So don't go looking for it because it's lost and gone forever.
No. It's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
Is he one of the bridge people?
A few persons escaped on ships and rafts and carried to the nations east and west the tidings of the appalling catastrophe, which has survived to our own time in the flood and deluge legends of different nations. All right. Chapter 2 is Plato's History of Atlantis. It's just Critias.
What we talked about with Plato,
Okay.
which if you haven't, again,
that's probably also going to be about 2 hours, given how long this one's on.
Watch the story beneath, and you could hear a good summary of that.
Well, I find...
and we will be going into Plato, hype moment in a later episode.
Not to kill the hype a little bit, but I find especially like very distant history a lot less interesting than like recent history, I guess.
It's just as interesting.
It is.
When we do Pompeii and stuff, you're gonna see.
Yeah, of course. But like, I'm not as locked into it.
Yeah,
like something that directly affects my culture.
Not to get off on a tangent, but
country,
like ancient history has this like perception of it almost being separated from like modern humanity.
Yeah.
When really it's not.
Yeah.
We've always just been horny and violent. That's just our nature as primates.
Chapter 3 is the probabilities of Plato's story. So he says in this chapter that Plato's story is not unreasonable and that it is not full of myths or legends. From the book, neither is there any evidence on the face of this history that Plato sought to convey in it a moral or political lesson.
Well,
What?
that's just fundamentally incorrect.
Listen, let me finish this.
Even Plato says.
Sought to convey a moral political lesson in the guise of a fable, as did Bacon in the New Atlantis. Back to Bacon.
I just feel like he's just saying one of those things and like just hoping no one looks into it. Like,
This dude is really into Sir Francis Bacon. Like, he stands very hard.
He goes on to say, there is no ideal republic delineated here. It is a straightforward, reasonable history of a people ruled over by their kings, living and the way this copied is progressing as the other nations have lived and progressed since their.
But he believes that. But Plato says that it existed, like, not recently to them, but a few hundred years, right?
No.
What does Plato say?
9,000.
9,000 years ago. Okay, but to them, that's not the start of human history, right?
No, because humanity would have to be around then. The thing is like where he's working, just because Plato writes Atlantis like it would be a real place, and even then Plato's not super in on the details. He seems to be more concerned
Because he got bored of the fucking story.
but Plato also seems more concerned to use the story as an allegory than anything else.
And obviously, he didn't think it was a very good one.
The word reasonable doesn't necessarily make it fucking so. Just because it's reasonable doesn't mean that makes it a thing that's real. That's the one that I'm like, that's not proof of it being, just because it seems like it could be real and he wrote it like it would be a real place.
Someone who
doesn't mean that it's history. That doesn't mean that it's more likely to be history. Anyways, sorry.
Someone who used a lot of symbolism in the last book we talked about in the last part does not seem to grasp symbolism. It's very weird.
So I'll bit of a spoiler here. His main argument for most things in this book is incredulity. Like, how could this have been possible?
Right.
How could this have been possible? It must be.
no.
What is but he could have read Voltaire, like this is this is made for fallacy. I have a bridge of my nose and it perfectly fits glasses, therefore there are glasses. It's that logical fallacy that we've been making fun of since way before he was writing.
This is just, I feel like he was so stuck on the idea that like humanity couldn't get past a certain point without the help of, I guess, a helping hand, right? That it completely polluted his
I was gonna say,
thought.
it's almost like, other things, like
Yeah.
we need God to come deliver us some forbidden knowledge so we can move on to something like outside of us running around naked in a forest. Anyways, let's continue.
So he in this point he kind of brings the Americas into this. The way he justifies that is Plato mentions, as I'll talk about it in that episode, the on the other side of Atlantis, there's the opposite continent that surrounds the true ocean. He says this is referring to America, even though the Americas don't surround the ocean. But there's more on that later. So the reason he uses the fact that Plato describes there being many generations of kings to justify the amount of time that has passed. So it's like, see, there were this many kings of Atlantis, so there had a lot of time that's obviously passed.
Or people died earlier than they did whenever he was alive.
Or Atlantis isn't fucking real.
Well, we can't just dismiss it like that, though. Like, imagine if that was the pod. We all just came in here and were like, Atlantis isn't real. And we ended the pod.
It just frustrates me to see such an obviously smart man make such...
Yeah.
I
agree 100%.
Silly arguments. But
it seems like continue. He had one thought and he could not grasp that one thought isn't right, so he built his whole ideology around that one wrong thought. It's fucked.
So he talks about this more later, and this will be a habit where I'll say like he talks about this more later because he will talk about something for a little bit and then go into a much more detail later. So that'll be a thing. He sort of uses the idea of rivers and a cross to connect it to the Garden of Eden. Again, it's very vague here. I'll go into that more later. I know that doesn't make sense now. But
I will also defend that because when you were making any sort of theory like this that even touches upon, religion's playground, if you will, the writers at the time, and especially pre-1800s, really had to work that in to get the masses. They had to. Darwin did it, like with natural selection. They had to work that caveat in. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, it was endgame for whatever you were talking about for most people.
He makes a claim about Poseidon because Poseidon is often shown like in a chariot riding horses. He claims that is proof of Atlantis because Plato does say that there were horses in Atlantis. They had horses. So Poseidon had horses. Why would a sea god have horses? It must be because of it.
What?
Well,
he saw why would a sea god be portrayed with horses?
He saw
Atlantis had horses. Poseidon.
He once saw a painting of Poseidon hanging out with the horses.
I don't even understand what he's trying to say, though.
The horses came from Atlantis, and Poseidon had horses.
Poseidon had horses.
Poseidon is a king of Atlantis, right?
No, Poseidon created Atlantis.
That's what he'd be. Yeah, but Poseidon was just a man, not a god, because he had to ride around on horses still.
Yeah, that's kind of
right.
I'm so lost. I don't even understand what his point here is. Right.
Plato says that there were horses in Atlantis.
Yes.
Poseidon, the god of water,
yes,
is this is not him making it up. He is often portrayed with horses.
Of course,
chariot with horses. His thing is, this is incredulity. Why would you portray a sea god with horses? What use would a sea god have with horses?
But he believes
he wasn't a sea god.
Yeah, he believes that Poseidon was a ruler of Atlantis, right? And that's where they got the god from.
Plato says that Poseidon created Atlantis. He wasn't the ruler; he created it.
But doesn't Donnelly believe that all the gods, all their previous gods from different civilizations, are previous Atlantean kings?
Yeah, we're getting too much into it right now. You're trying too hard to make this work.
Because fundamentally,
I'm just trying to get in his thought, like, what did he believe? I don't understand.
Really, you got to think of it like this. He's going to throw a lot of ideas at the wall and see what sticks in a lot of ways.
But based on the book we just read, that's not this isn't a grift. This is something he believes.
Yeah, you gotta think. Yeah, he has years of experience.
He was 59 years old when he wrote that book.
Okay. That would be like you writing a book now, and then someone with like 30 years of experience.
But I still don't think this is a grift. I think he legitimately believes this.
No.
So I want to get in his thought process. I want to understand what he believes. That's what I'm trying to do here.
I'm not even through the first part of the book. This is a 490-page book. I'm on page 25.
Okay, you keep going. I was just trying. I don't understand.
Let me read this passage and see if it helps you.
Okay.
This is from the book. Poseidon, or Neptune, is represented in Greek mythology as a sea god. But he is figured as standing in a war chariot drawn by horses. The association of the horse, a land animal, with a sea god is inexplicable, except with the light given by Plato. Poseidon was a sea god because he ruled over a great land. Don't know if that helps you or not.
No, that explains. Okay, that explains nothing though. He was a sea god because he ruled over the land of the sea, and that's why they had horses, and the horses also were in the sea. What are you saying, brother?
Listen, if you're having trouble with this, things are only going to get worse.
Yeah, it's all going to go downhill.
Keep
It'll
going.
get better. This is where he introduces the idea that the kings of Atlantis share their names with Phoenician deities. I've looked into this. It's a thing, but there's actually no real connection. But the names don't match up.
Okay.
Again, his way, I'll get into it more later, but his way of connecting names and language is, at the time, it's the way they did it. Now it's
pseudo-linguistics.
Yes.
It's what's linguistics. It's that linguistics is a fairly new kind of science that we're grasping. Like,
he says this, we find in Plato's narrative the names of some of the Phoenician deities among the kings of Atlantis. Where did Greek Plato get these names if the story is a fable? I mean, he was Plato. I'm sure he read it.
That was his job. He is actually one of the most famous of his job, and it was reading.
So he states his first claims that the Azores Islands, off the coast of Spain, are the remnants of Atlantis. One of the things he uses to make this point is that Atlantis is said to have hot springs, and the Azores have hot springs.
oh, so Atlantis only like sunk, and then some of it came back up again.
And this couldn't possibly be a coincidence to him. Plato said Atlantis had hot springs, and the Azores had hot springs.
Is there a reason he picked there, though? Because there's a lot of places that have hot springs.
Yeah,
Okay.
he gets into that more.
It's a geography. Why can't I
Geography.
say? It's been 2 weeks. I cannot say that word. Geography.
So here's the excerpt from the book. Plato tells us the whole country was very lofty and precipitous on the side of the sea. With the country immediately about and surrounding the city was a level plain, itself surrounded by mountains, which descended toward the sea, which is from Plato.
Okay.
One has to look at the profile of the Dolphin Ridge as revealed by the deep sea soundings of the Challenger.
Which we're doing now.
Yes, giving as the front is... The way I annotated this in the Kindle app and the way off a PDF and the way it puts it together sometimes is like doesn't make any sense. As the frontispiece to the volume is what it says. I don't think that's right. To see that this is a faithful description of the precipitous elevation. The surrounding mountains, which shelter the plain from the north, are represented in the present towering peaks of the Azores.
I have a quick question. Is this from the book?
This is yes. These
is this what he believed the continent looked like?
Yes. So on the left is his representation of Atlantis. On the right is what at the time that they understood as the topology.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so this is what it looks like. This is before and after.
So you can see the little island, the big island in the middle that is Atlantis, and now he's got a little to the side there, the Azores, which would be the peaks. The Azores are islands off the coast of Spain. They are peaks of volcanoes.
Okay.
So what he's talking about, Dolphin Ridge, that's what they call it. So at the time he wrote that they were just mapping this, but it's actually part of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge, which is a giant series of volcanoes that runs down the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Okay.
The Azores is the peaks of dormant volcanoes that are part of the Mid-Atlantic. So he states here that in Plato's time, they considered the Atlantic to be muddy and impassable, which does seem to have been the belief that beyond the which we'll talk about the pillars later, but beyond the pillars of Heracles, it was considered to be muddy, shallow, impassable water.
Okay.
So Plato describes the area as beyond where Atlantis is as muddy and impassable. Now he says it was a common belief that the Atlantic was muddy and impassable, but somehow expresses incredulity that Plato could have known that it was muddy and impassable. His logic is Plato said it was muddy and impassable. So the destruction of Atlantis would do that. It would do that in his logic, So why would Plato say it was muddy and impassable if it wasn't true?
Right.
So he's this is where sometimes he seems like a very smart man, but basically what he's saying here is it was a common belief during Plato's time that it was muddy and impassable. But the fact that
that's not true.
Why would Plato put that detail in his story unless it was like he did.
Unless it was muddy and impassable.
So
But he's throwing that part away because it doesn't fit the narrative that he's presenting.
There's no way Plato could have known it was muddy and impassable, even though it was a common belief during that time that it was muddy and impassable.
This is insane.
How could Plato have known that unless this story was true?
Why? Why? What do those two things have to do with each other?
And it's again that therefore argument. I have two legs, therefore there are trousers.
Yeah.
Like, it's that sort of logic.
Yeah.
He also makes a mention and he'll use numbers a lot. Poseidon's trident had 3 points, and he brings up the number 3 that occurred in various other beliefs.
Oh, so this is like an early interest in like numerology that we see later come back in the Great
modern conspiracy theories.
Well, no, the Great Crypto, like it's very like in Shakespeare. What was it? The Great whatever cryptogram? I forgot what it was. I'm not even trying.
Cryptogram.
Cryptogram.
He also used the fact that Plato says Atlantis has 10 kings, which 10 is a number that is significant in other.
Wait, what? Atlantis only had 10 kings?
Yes.
In 9,000 years.
There is more?
No, Atlantis didn't last for 9,000 years. It's not said how long Atlantis lasted.
Okay, but it was 9,000 years ago.
There is so many Greek... There is more than 10 Greek gods.
Yeah, I'm going to get into that later.
We'll explain it. Don't worry.
Okay.
He's going to leave... In 450 pages about this bullshit, he's going to leave no stone unturned.
Yeah, I got you.
He refers to... Somewhere in the Old Testament, there's a reference to an island of the sea. He seems like sort of incredulous that...
You have the scripture?
No.
Okay.
He doesn't... he might have listed the scripture. I just don't remember. I did this part months ago. He seems incredulous that Jewish people, like Hebrew society, generally land-based society, would know of islands. So why would there be an island in the Bible?
No,
that's
like, no, dude. Come on now, man.
Including races in the Pokemon category. Jewish people are a land type human.
One thing he actually does get right here that sort of breaks from strict biblical stuff is says humanity is more than 9,000 years old. So it's entirely possible that a civilization could have existed 9,000
years.
Yeah, that's a little bit. He's on the right track there, scientifically speaking.
But that's what frustrates me so much about this. It feels like he's on the right track so hard, but he let one thought completely pollute his scientific mind.
I think a lot of people have that same thought. How could human beings rise from nothing without some sort of divine, scientific, or great lost past help, because we couldn't do it. God forbid human beings ever create anything on their own.
Yeah. Fuck, man.
So chapter 4 is basically just him listing off different things that could have kind of been similar to how Atlantis was destroyed, different disasters and things like that.
So he doesn't think it's only a great flood?
It's complicated.
But, like, as terms of, like, actual natural disasters, the Great Flood did wipe out Atlantis, right?
It was part of it, but I'm sure he goes into Earth.
The flooding was the sinking of Atlantis.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But in chapter 4, he provides 2 conclusions. Number 1, that it is proven beyond question by geological evidence that vast masses of land once existed in the region where Atlantis is located by Plato.
Is that true?
And that therefore such an island must have existed. Again, Mid-Atlantic Ridge, I'm not sure if it was above ground at any point or not.
Okay. I would assume it probably.
Well, we have to also say here, like, they didn't have a good grasp of plate tectonics.
Yeah. Is this pre-plate tectonics?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like, so I mean, that is interesting that he is understanding the idea that the land can shift and change.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
But
he's again dumping it into the wrong
place.
Bucket,
he keeps doing it, man.
Conclusion number 2: there is nothing improbable or impossible in the statement that it was destroyed suddenly by an earthquake in one dreadful night and day. Which is how Plato says.
Mm-hmm. Which is there's a lot wrong with that. From what just the oceanic impact alone would have also destroyed other civilizations on coastal plains.
But I am curious, could like an island completely sink if a bad enough earthquake hit it? Is that something that is geologically possible?
Oh yeah.
I'm assuming it would cause huge tsunamis, though.
Oh yeah, of course. It would be a global
Yeah.
disaster, not just a disaster for that one landmass.
Chapter 5 is the testimony of the sea, and this is where he gives his dimensions of Atlantis and where he says his claim on dolphin richer. This is a pretty big excerpt, but I'll drink it all. Suppose we were to find in mid-Atlantic, in front of the Mediterranean, in the neighborhood of the Azores, the remains of an immense island sunk beneath the sea, 1,000 miles in width and 2,000 or 3,000 miles long. Would it not go far to confirm the statement of Plato that beyond the strait where you place the pillars of Hercules, I usually say it as Heracles because that's the actual Greek, but he says it's Hercules. There was an island larger than Asia Minor and Libya combined, called Atlantis. And suppose we found that the Azores were the mountain peaks of the drowned island and were torn and rent by tremendous volcanic convulsion, while around them, descending into the sea, were found great strata of lava, and the whole face of the sunken land was covered for thousands of miles with volcanic debris. Would we not be obliged to confess that these facts furnish strong corroborative proofs that the truth of Plato's statement that in one night day, engulfs the. So, yeah.
Suppose we have gone there and we find that there's a bottom to the ocean there. Suppose we did that, and therefore Atlantis must be real. Well, how do you define an island in the ocean? Because it's literally just land underground, so it would be the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah, well, he's saying it.
His understanding of an island is like their understanding of that might be a lot different than it is now. But I'm just, again, it's it's Voltaire. It is Candide. It's that same sort of argument of therefore this must be a thing because this thing but it's the backwards logic of that. Yeah.
Are we not inclined to? What did he say? Are we not inclined to what?
Are we not? Yeah, he really likes the. If we suppose we find this.
Chapter 6, the testimony of the flora and the fauna.
Yeah, if we do find those things, probably some of it's probably true, but you know what? We haven't.
He argues something correctly here. He argues that all land must have been connected at some point.
That is
true.
That was later. That's ahead of the time they were.
He says proofs are abundant that there must have been at one time uninterrupted land communication between Europe and America. Now, they were all just one big landmass.
Why did he pick Europe and America?
Because that's where Atlantis. Atlantis was.
I see.
Both the land. So he gives different examples of like plants and animals that are common on both that he doesn't see how could have evolved separately.
So this is pre-Pangea too.
They didn't have Pangea wasn't quite a thing yet. I don't believe.
No.
Yeah, and they didn't have plate tectonics then.
I'm not wrong, right? Pangea came first, and then plate tectonics.
People were kicking around the idea for a long time.
I'm not sure what the order was. He really talks about like the plantain a lot and the banana a lot, but
sure, he's talking about the connecting continents and all that, and how all that stuff
South America
which is actual scientific research for the time, probably. If I had to guess,
I tried to find the origins of the banana and how in the continents. I couldn't really find much, but I didn't look too hard.
Yeah, it's all they really had to work with. It's weird that these two things are here. How do we explain that?
Yeah.
But he says on that, is it not more reasonable to suppose that the plantain or banana was cultivated by the people of Atlantis?
He is so close every time, dude. He's one step away, and this one idea that society has to stem from like a hand grasping out to it fucks him up every time. It's so frustrating. So he's right there.
Well, is it not more reasonable to suppose that the plantain or banana was cultivated by the people of Atlantis and carried by their civilized agricultural colonies to the east and to the west? So he doesn't think that bananas could be cultivated to seedlessness by two different societies on different continents.
Which, we do know that there is co-divergent evolution in both, in biological evolution and societal evolution, two things can develop co-divergently, but I mean, in that case, I think he might be onto something though, with the idea that like how do they grow both here?
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, it was probably not someone sailing across the Atlantic Ocean to bring banana plants from this place to this place, because the technology didn't exist then. The idea is probably Pangea and the continents were connected, but the fact that he has to be like, there was a big giant magical land in the middle.
Yeah, that's what's so frustrating, dude. He's knocking on the door of being a scientific revolutionary. He's right there. And then this one idea that Atlantis somehow formed all of civilization pollutes it. Instead of like seeing it as a way, instead of actually grasping it and being trying to work out the information based on the info you have, he's using it as a way to prop up Atlantis.
Also, why John's so frustrated by this is because we did part 1 first and we went over his life and like the story that he told, and he's genuinely interested and has genuine compassion.
Yeah.
So he's a good main character. So when you see he has a villain arc,
it's not even a villain arc though. Yeah. It's just like him having a character flaw or a thought flaw that completely fucks up his way of thinking and it pollutes his ideas.
So he makes the argument that the Atlantis is the source of all valuable plants. Claims that useful plants are only found in areas that he deemed were part of Atlantis.
This is the problem, because this is where it gets a little bit elitist and a little bit sketchy about useful plants, useful technology. Yeah. Just so happens to be European societies. This is when we get a little...
but
he does spare American societies, all American societies, so it's not fair to just do European. But he'll include South America in there. Yeah. But there's a whole other area of the whole world that he's just like, but not them though.
Yeah.
Yeah. He argues that useful plants could only have been cultivated by one long-term civilization.
Does he go into what useful plants are?
I don't remember. I didn't
sure.
write.
It's not super
details.
I'm not
curious. He does bring up Darwin a few times in this. This part. He talks about some old pipes that were found in Ireland and uses them to again. That's a detail I don't really care about. Part 2. This is where the tedium comes in.
Yeah. We're just going to gloss.
Yeah. Part 2 is the deluge. Chapter 1, the destruction of Atlantis described in the deluge legends. He says Atlantis was a geological certainty. Nothing much else in that chapter. Chapter 2, the deluge of the Bible. He restates the story of Noah.
Yeah, I think we really do sum this part up in the story beneath. And what he says here is it basically he thinks that this all has to be connected and all has to be one thing culturally, because how do we have these myths that are, these civilizations that should have never had contact with each other all have these similar myths, when the reality again is we're human beings. We said it, and but that's his belief. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's kind of the point that he's making throughout a lot of this.
I think so. I kind of tuned out there for a second. I was reading ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry.
He was basically saying that all the flood myths and all that stuff are, just not nature.
No,
sum up what you're saying.
Yeah. We could edit around this, but what I was saying is we in the story beneath, we covered this section, I think, is what I was saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, pretty well, that the idea is that how are these myths, both in all these two civilizations, separated by each other? Why it has to be because, is that sort of idea.
So he says that the genealogy of the Bible only refers to Mediterranean, Aryan, Cushite, Phoenician, Hebrew, and Egyptian races. Which Cushite, he'll say that a few times. Cushite, it refers to Cushite civilization was a civilization that was along the Nile. It was southern Egypt, northern Sudan kind of area. Yeah. Cushite is named after Cush, who was the son of Ham, grandson of Noah, who was said to have settled that area, and everyone in that area is the descendants of Cush. That's why they're called Cushites. But he says, it is now conceded by scholars that the genealogical table given in the Bible is not intended to I was trying to avoid saying a word and I got stripped up there. Is not intended to include the true African races, or the Chinese, the Japanese, the Finns or Lapps, the Australians, or the American red men.
What? Oh no! Oh no!
Villain arc. I told you,
Really
it's the
bad.
villain arc.
It
Yeah.
got really bad.
It refers altogether to the Mediterranean races, the Aryans, the Cushites, the Phoenicians, the Hebrews, and the Egyptians.
Yeah.
The sons of Ham were not true Africans, but the dark brown races.
Oh no!
This is the lesser than
Oh
part.
no!
That none of
That's
us
really
said.
bad.
So I take it he's not a fan of natives from how he's talking.
Well, it's very. Listen, this is America during that time.
Yeah, of
and
course,
his idea
of course.
also
So,
too.
I'll say I haven't got before you. Like I'm not going to say don't judge him for this, but let me get to some other things to help you understand why he
yeah,
separates things like
the
he does.
the
societal,
not real Hamilite
Well-
stuff though. That's really bad.
the societal reason that there was a popular theory in America at the time that was considered progressive, and it became more oppressive as time went on, that we integrate them into society. Okay, like that was the idea. These are savages that we have to integrate into civilized society, is what they thought. By doing that, they would do things like ban customs and religions and dances and try to make them be Christians, and that would help
Let's
them
not be nice
civilized.
about it. They killed their culture.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Catholic Church did a lot of
Yeah, which is
bad things.
and natives fought against this forever, and it was a thing where they would sneak it back in, and the slaves did this as well.
Yeah.
That's why voodoo elements exist in a lot of our religions now.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but it's a whole other topic.
Yeah.
But
We
it
can't really
was
afford
the
to get
idea at
into
the
it. It's already
time, though,
long.
especially during that time in America. The progressive idea was integration.
Yeah.
That's what we do to make these savages civils. We integrate them into our society.
So here's an interesting statement
Yeah.
that he makes. If these races, the Chinese, Australians, Americans, etc., are not descended from Noah, they could not have been included in the deluge. If neither China, Japan, America, Northern Europe, nor Australia were depopulated by the deluge could not have been universal. But as it is alleged that it did destroy a country and drowned all the people thereof except Noah and his family, the country so destroyed could not have been Europe, Asia, Africa, America, or Australia, for there have been no universal destruction of the people of those regions. Or if there had been, how can we account for the existence today of people on all those continents whose descendants Genesis does not track back to Noah, and in fact, about whom the writer of Genesis seems to have no knowledge?
That's super cool that we're using the Old Testament as
So
a historical
he-
document. now.
Yeah.
But he's questioning the narrative. He's
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
it was
he
not a
is.
worldwide flood.
Right. They're
As
using that
quoted
as
in the
evidence that
Bible.
it couldn't be a worldwide flood because, yeah.
Yeah.
Because these cultures
So
were not mentioned in
it's
the Bible.
his idea that Atlantis was the society that got flooded.
Yes,
Yes.
that's the country
Yes.
that's the only true country that experienced this
I got you.
apocalyptic event.
So chapter 3 just talks about the deluge of the Chaldeans. He restates this story. So this is flood myth. It's more commonly known as the most common telling of this myth is the Epic of Gilgamesh. The Epic of Gilgamesh is a telling of the myth. The myth isn't the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Right.
The Epic of Gilgamesh is an epic poem that tells the story of this myth of the Chaldean flood. And we'll get into it more later. He does connect these two. He's not the first one to do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's so common. But again, why would there be so many stories about floods, man? Because floods are scary to human beings.
That's all this part. Well, all this is like floods from other. Like this is where the tedious comes
and
in. It's just-
why do we all have
Yeah.
those connections? Because they're scary. Why do we all have the same dream across the whole world that our teeth are falling out? Because that's a real thing to be afraid of. Why is snakes scary in all cultures? Because it's
Yeah.
an innate fear that all humans share. It's just humanity, man. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. So chapter 4 is the deluge legends of other nations. It's exactly what it sounds like. He talks about. He does make a point that Egyptians have no flood myths because they knew the real story of Atlantis.
Is that true?
So not necessarily.
I was gonna say I feel like
Yeah.
that's not true.
Egypt does have some flood myths, but they're not bad flood myths. So Atlantis, Egypt.
Well, that's because water was probably good for
Well,
them.
no, Egypt was built on the Nile.
Yeah.
The Nile had there was a rainy season where the Nile rose.
Mm-hmm.
They built calendars around the Nile. So when the Nile, so there is floods are built into their mythology. They're just not bad things.
Yeah, sure.
They have festivals for
It's
the
because,
rising of the Nile and things like
it
that.
was their source of life. Like their whole culture was built around that river.
Chapter 5 is the Deluge Legends of America. Again, it's the same thing. He does say there's some more bad linguistic analysis in here. One part I did want to put. He says the name Noah, which occurs in it, bears no appropriate meaning in those tongues, but is derived from Aryan sources. Its fundamental root of Na, to which in all the Aryan language is attached to the meaning of water. Noah is derived from the Hebrew name Noach. I mean, they know what it means. It does have a root in Hebrew.
I got it.
He recounts some Native American flood myths that were most likely heavily distorted by the Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
Talks about Aslan being a retelling of Atlantis. Says the original home, and I don't know why he calls it like Nahuatlakas. I'm not sure where he got that name from. I saw them refer to it as the Nahuatl. The original home of them was Aslan, the location of which has been the subject of much discussion. The causes that led to their exodus from their country can only be conjectured. This is a quote by the way, from a book, Bancroft's Native Races. But they may have supposed to have been driven out by their enemies, for Aslan is described as a land too fair and beautiful to be left willingly in the mere hope of finding better. I go into this in our Lost Cities episode that will be coming up. I'm not going to go into it here. Chapter 6 is some consideration of the Deluge legends. This is just more repeating of minor flood myths and saying, they were because of Atlantis.
Nothing new here.
So, part 3, the civilization of the old world and the new compared. So this is where we get back into
but look,
nature of civilization.
Some pyramids.
So chapter 1 is civilization and inheritance. So he says here, I shall undertake to show hereafter that nearly all the arts essential to civilization which we possess date back to the time of Atlantis. Certainly to that ancient Egyptian civilization, which was, I don't know this word, coeval. I'm not sure what
judging by the context clues that I guess they seem like they
coexisted.
Yeah.
With and an outgrowth from Atlantis. In 6,000 years, the world has made no advance on the civilization which it received from Atlantis.
Fuck electricity.
What is he saying?
That everything we have, we inherited from.
Yeah, we haven't built on anything.
We haven't built anything on our own. It's all from technology that Atlantis handed us.
Phoenician.
We suck. Atlantis rules.
Phoenicia, Egypt, Chaldea, India, Greece, and Rome passed the torch of civilization from one to the other. But in all that lapse of time, they added nothing to the arts which existed at the earliest period of Egyptian history. In architecture, sculpture, painting, engraving, mining, metallurgy, navigation, pottery, glassware, the construction of canals, roads, and aqueducts, the arts of Phoenicia and Egypt extended without material change or improvement to a period but 200 or 300 years.
I wonder.
This is so frustrating.
I wonder what Atlantis' version of Fast and the Furious franchise looked like.
Yeah.
Like, what do you think that looked like? Just fucking chariots launching into space.
Yeah,
like,
that'd be sweet. Yeah.
What were they stealing in the first one other than VCRs? Like, what were they stealing in Atlantis? Well, Atlantis. No, I'm sorry. Atlantis would have VCRs by this logic. Atlantis would just have VCRs.
This is the root of a lot of conspiracy theories.
Here's where it gets a little more interesting. He says, in other words, the capacity of the Egyptian, Aryan, Chaldean, Chinese, Saxon, and the Celt to maintain civilization is simply the result of civilized training during the myriads of centuries in some original home of the race.
Okay, hold on. Let's dumb guy that down really quick.
So these races that are civilized,
Mm-hmm.
they're only civilized. Essentially, they all came from Atlantis. They learned civilization from Atlantis.
Right,
That's
okay.
why they're civilized.
That's what I thought I was saying.
Yeah.
I just wanted
This
to dumb
is-
guy that down a little.
Like a
He
lot of
says-
conspiracies do this though, where like they get so close to the actual answer
That's why
and
it's
then
so
dump
fun.
it off.
That's why
into something
Atlantis was such a
else.
fun one to start diving into and looking at these guys
Yeah.
writing, because it almost is like they're all almost the same and just steal from each other all the time because
And it would be another thing if it was just completely batshit, like like some of the moon landing conspiracies are flat Earth, but
Well, no,
these are
you
so
see elements
close
of
to
this,
getting it.
which is like kind of like the OG conspiracy theory, and you see elements of this in almost every other conspiracy theory. You see elements of this in ancient aliens. You see elements of this in any sort of lost civilization.
I would
myth.
wonder if this is the oldest conspiracy theory that we know of.
That Atlantis is real and not
Yeah,
just a
yeah.
metaphor.
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's something that I just popped into my head. We can look into it later.
But he goes on to say that Egypt was unable to maintain at a high standard which was received from Atlantis.
Actually, I bet it's not. I bet it's probably blood libel.
He says it's not believable that great inventions were done simultaneously in multiple countries. Societies were only able to maintain civilization because they were trained to do so. And here's where it gets a little interesting again. He says, civilization is not communicable to all. Many savage tribes are incapable of it.
Jeez.
There are two great divisions of mankind, the civilized and the savage. And as we shall
Yikes.
shall show. I don't know why I can't say shall show.
We'll do it together. Like, well, I'm going to drag you down into my racism with me. So come, we're going to do this together.
As we shall show,
There you go.
every civilized race in the world has had something of civilization from the earliest ages. And as all roads lead to Rome, so all the converging lines of civilization lead to Atlantis.
It's really cool they just worked in that platitude to think that was proof.
corny.
All right. There's just a little bit
Marvel
more.
ass one liner.
I really liked him. Last week.
Yeah, me too.
This week, this is the villain arc.
Hold on, let me finish this. The abyss between the civilized man and the savage is simply incalculable.
Oh my god.
It represents not alone a difference in arts and methods of life, but in the mental constitution, the instincts, and the predispositions of the soul.
No, fuck this.
Oh,
Fuck this guy right now. That is. But I mean, like again, in 30 years' time or whatever the time period is in between the two stories that we've covered, he could have thought about it and had a change of heart. But even in the other story, he put
Vaguely
some of
right,
this
yeah,
in here.
yeah.
Some of that is still in there and bleeds through
This
a little
is
bit.
bad,
So-
though. This is
yeah.
really bad.
So this is a long one, so let me get through
Yeah,
it.
sure.
The abyss between savagery and civilization has never been passed by any nation through its own original force and without external influences. During the historic period, those who were savages at the dawn of history are still savages. Barbarian slaves may have been taught something of their arts of their masters, and conquered races have some of the advantages possessed by their conquerors, but we still seek in vain for any example of a savage people developing a civilization of and among themselves. I may be reminded of the Gauls, Goths, and Britons, but these were not savages. They possessed written languages, poetry, oratory, and history.
They're European.
They were controlled by religious ideas. They believed in God and the immortality of the soul, and in the state of reward and punishment after death.
Yeah. All right. Thought
Yeah.
I could get fucked right now at this point, but there's so much wrong. There's so many leaps in logic that he's making here. They did have. I mean, we know this. There's no point in saying it. I'm acting like Donnelly's sitting in the room, and I would convince him.
Yeah.
But, these indigenous peoples from Africa to the Americas to even I'm thinking from what I'm reading, he's including Japan and China, had immense culture huge culture and art of their own, and it just
Well, no,
wasn't
he's
European.
including Japan and China in the civilized.
Okay. Well, you know what I'm saying, but like indigenous people of all those from Africa to here, in Africa right now, there's a huge and rich culture.
Yeah.
There's still a huge native culture that they desperately cling on to. White people try to erase it, not because it was better, but like their culture was better, just because it was threatening to them.
Yeah.
And it scared them, and people fear what they don't understand.
So, the last thing worth covering this chapter is he doesn't know of any instance where two people unaware of each other invented the same thing independently of one another.
He's never heard a story in his life. He knows how to write.
No, not story. He's talking about inventions, creating something like a real thing.
It still applies to storytelling.
I mean, agriculture developed in the Americas and in Europe,
so
independently.
I made just a brief list, and
Yes, thank you.
So
you knew we were going to be pissed.
The reason I picked these is because they're well-known things, and they were all done before Donnelly was even born.
Right. So Donnelly should have been aware of this when he was writing this.
Calculus,
invented
by Isaac Newton and Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz at the same time. Like, literally the same time. They published it within just a short time of each other.
Is this before or after Donnelly, though?
This is all before.
Okay, good.
All before Donnelly.
Be aware of this.
Evolution. He mentions Darwin here. It was also put forward by Alfred Russel Wallace about the exact same time. Other things: discovery of oxygen, the steam engine, the lightning rod, chloroform.
I like that one.
Yeah. Just want to include that in there. Chapter 2, the identity of the civilization of the old world and the new. So here he just talks about similarities between all these different. So how they had similar things in architecture.
Again, it's like he's trying to say the same. See how many different ways he can say the same fucking thing. Like was he getting paid by the word?
So it's the things he listed for: architecture, metallurgy, sculpture, painting. He just talked about these things look similar in these different cultures. So how is that possible? That's what this entire chapter is.
It's the dragon shit, dude. Like all the points he's been making for the last 3 chapters is just the dragon shit.
I'm gonna be dragging these nuts all over Donald's face if he keeps talking this shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you should die.
So chapter 3 is American Evidences.
We were being too intellectual. I had to drag it back down really quick. There's too much scholarly discussion happening. I had to.
So chapter 3 is American Evidences of Intercourse with Europe or Atlantis.
Oh, never mind. We're getting pornographic here.
He says that Central America had portrayals of bearded men, which if you want to go to the next picture, that is one of the pictures he uses as evidence of this.
Mm-hmm.
So this basically, his argument here is Central America has portrayals of bearded men. Central American men did not have beards.
That's right. So white people had to teach them how to build pyramids.
No. His point is that no Central African man ever had a
Central
beard.
America. Central America.
Oh, Central America.
Sorry.
Ever in history?
No, none of them have beards, John. None of them.
Ever.
Impossible.
Dude. No, dude. What is wrong with this guy?
He says that every tradition of civilized American races points to Europe.
Of course it does.
This one, this is another one where he's right on top of it, but somehow he just skews. He says, America has depictions of Atlantis. There are 2 possible explanations for this. Mammoths, or they're remembering elephants from Atlantis. Which one's more likely? And you can actually go to the next slide.
Does he actually say the part which one's more likely?
There's 3 slides.
Okay.
This one.
So that's the drawing.
Yeah.
In the native mound, the ancient drawing.
Yeah. And
it's elephant adjacent. I can see it. Okay. So that's obviously.
Yeah, it looks.
Oh, so did I go too far?
No, that's the last one. That says these are the ones he uses to show elephants. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That one.
What is elephant about this?
So I see the headdress. Yeah,
people have. If for anyone who can't see it, if you look in the center where the they point up in the middle, that's a tusk. So see the rest is an elephant looking up.
So, like I said, this could be memories of culture, just remembering that, mammoths used to be a thing. I think that's the most likely one. Also, we do know
He says that.
So maybe
He says that.
But it's probably remembering elephants from Atlantis.
That's the most
longer
away from a longer time period away.
Atlantis is a landlocked...
Actually, it wouldn't be.
Wait, Atlantis is a...
It wouldn't be?
No.
Hold on. Atlantis is a landlocked society, or an ocean-locked society, right?
Yes.
How the fuck did elephants get there, then?
Plato says they were there. All flora and fauna were in Atlantis.
That's right.
Plato says
Plato does describe it.
Wait, okay, yeah, but that doesn't explain
also-
how did Central America see...
It doesn't matter because it's dumb. Because also, even if it's not cultural stories and folklore telling of this creature being passed down, in a society.
Yeah.
But that's dumb because they couldn't have societies according to Donnelly. But in their society, there's also, we know there was fossils laying around. We know that they could have saw them, and this could be that, especially the one in the Central America could be a recreation of that.
Yeah.
Like,
this one does not I don't just see an elephant at all in this one.
It takes a while to see it. But
it's there. I do see it now, but I'm just saying that.
Yeah, I just that's a minor detail, but I just thought that was a fun one.
Yeah,
This is very frustrating.
So,
it's just frustrating. Yeah, because
this is very frustrating.
I had to read 490 pages of this.
Yeah. You had to get to the point to where it's like you're just saying the same thing 800 different ways.
Yeah.
And none of it's that compelling.
This is very frustrating to me, though, from doing the last episode and bridging onto this.
Yeah, if you're like, this is like, I'm 14 and this is deep shit, like that subreddit,
yeah.
In the 1800s, like I could see why people in the late 1800s would kind of read this and be like, "Whoa, man! Like some of this is mind blowing." If you've never looked into this before, in any sort of way,
there's no internet.
If you weren't an academic, I could see why this seems deep.
Mm-hmm.
But really, even at the time period and what science understood then, it's not
very
that
outdated.
deep. Yeah.
So next one we'll go to chapter 4.
I can see why this was so critiqued heavily by scholars at the time.
Yeah.
Chapter 4 is corroborating circumstances. So he makes the argument here. This part is accurate. The Atlantic is named. Its name comes from the Atlas Mountains, which border on Atlantis. He says he wonders where the Atlas Mountains got their name, and says that there is no satisfying etymology for the word Atlas in any known language. Atlas is Greek for to bear. It means to bear. The Titan Atlas bore the world on his shoulders. To bear. It means to bear. That's. So the name must have come from the king of Atlantis, which Plato does say the oldest son of Poseidon, the first king of Atlantis, was Atlas. He does say that name, but he named it after the mountains, not the other way around.
Which they did a lot.
Yeah. Again, we'll talk about this later. Plato inserted real-world details to give it credibility. That's the most logical conclusion. Plato does say in the story that there were islands beyond Atlantis and a continent beyond Atlantis. He is incredulous that Plato could somehow know that there would be islands in the ocean.
I'm going to lose my shit.
And again, Plato says an island a continent that surrounds the sea. He's like, how could he have known that there was another continent out there that doesn't surround the sea?
Islands are a thing.
I'm gonna lose my shit, bro.
Now he's really like downplaying the intelligence of the Greeks, though, in a lot of ways. Yeah. But it's okay.
He argues like how could without Atlantis, how could the boss language be similar to American languages? It's not.
I mean, no,
it's not.
No, it literally isn't. I mean, we ran into this with Rubeck too, where it's like, yeah, but like the same word for a house in German is kind of similar to the word in Latin, but like, no, it's like but it's not. Like it is, but it's not. It's not. He doesn't have the right idea. He does have the right idea because audibly it is, but then when you start looking at like the phonics of it and the way that it works in the language, it's very clear that they're not a shared language because. The way that the subject, verb agreement, all of those things matter in languages.
All that stuff, yeah.
So
you can't just go on like auditory.
I'm gonna need you guys to wait for the next part. Just take a few breaths.
Jesus Christ.
Calm down.
Okay. Because it's gonna be. We're just gonna be outraged.
We need a break after this one. I can't, dude.
So he says this: without Atlantis, And let me get through it before you react to anything. Without Atlantis, how can we explain the fact that the early Egyptians were depicted by themselves as red men on their own monuments? And on the other hand, how can we account for the representations of Africans on the monuments of Central America? Hey, take a breather. It includes pictures
I had to hold my breath. Oh, Jesus Christ.
of these supposed
don't even-
portrayals of Africans.
I feel like this is so racist. I don't
Okay,
even
so
understand.
this- yeah.
So these are his supposed
Oh my
portrayals of
God.
Africans in Central America.
Yeah, he's definitely bringing his own racism into and projecting it onto this art, this ancient art,
Jeez.
which is cool.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, if I
Holy
was a
fuck,
racist piece of shit,
man.
I could say I see it too. Like,
Holy fuck, man. Yo, we gotta kill this guy.
this is villain arc, man.
He goes on to, he says, modern civilization is Atlantean. Without the thousands of years of development which were had in Atlantis, modern civilization could not have existed. The inventive faculty of the present age is taking up the great delegated work of creation where Atlantis left it thousands of years ago. How are we to explain the existence of the Semitic race in Europe without Atlantis? It is an intrusive race, a race colonized on seacoasts. Where are its old world affinities? It's pretty easy to trace the old world of Semitic peoples. It's not super hard.
He's basically white people. Ain't we great? That's what he's saying.
Yeah. Chapter 5, the question of complexion. Not touching it.
We should probably.
Yeah, nope,
we
nope,
get it.
nope, nope,
Yeah.
nope, nope.
Yeah.
Chapter 6, Genesis contains a history of Atlantis. He says, I have shown that the story of the deluge plainly refers to the destruction of Atlantis,
Have you though?
and that it agrees in many important particulars with the account given by Plato. The people destroyed were in both instances the ancient race that had created civilization. They had formerly been in a happy and sinless condition. They had become great and wicked. They were destroyed for their sins. They were destroyed by water.
Over 500 pages. I've plainly shown.
He goes on to pick creation myths from other things that he can cherry pick to connect to Genesis.
Sure, dude, sure.
Compares the Tower of Babel to a pyramid in America. It's just a bunch of this.
Oh, wait, Babel
continuing
happened
on.
in America?
Huh?
Babel, the Tower of Babel
He
happened
compares
in
it to a
America?
pyramid in America.
So it's basically like the way it's described in the Bible is similar. That must be Atlantis.
They're
Not
both
that.
Atlantis.
He's not pulling like
They're
a
both
Mormon.
pyramids.
Right.
He'll get into all pyramids and mounds are memories of Atlantis.
Right.
Of the mountain at the center of Atlantis.
Right, and we're all just
And
trying to
Not that
society's
it's one
just
of the
trying to
easiest
recreate
structures to build.
that. Yeah.
Chapter 7 is the origin of our alphabet. No solution of the origin of our European alphabet has yet been obtained.
The best alphabet, by the way.
We can trace it back from nation to nation and form to form until we reach the Egyptians and the archaic forms of the Phoenicians, Hebrews, Cushites. But beyond this, the light fails us. So he said, it only goes back to Egyptians. How did they create language? It's kind of,
Yeah.
there were crude forms of language before Egyptian hieroglyphs.
Mhm.
They were
Well-
the Egyptians and the Sumerians were the first ones. Who
Well,
sort
we
of sit
know
down and
that
formally
Yeah.
created.
aliens came down and taught Egyptians how to speak. He's just being ridiculous here.
He's so close, man. That's the part that's so frustrating. But like, instead of going with Occam's razor
he's-
that they invented
Yeah,
it,
but he's way off on
yeah,
the
of
language
course,
part.
of
Like
course,
that
of
is the part
course.
where I feel like he goes wildly.
So, there was an interesting excerpt here. It says some of us through Bishop Landa, one of the early missionary bishops, who confesses to having burnt a great number of Mayan books because they contained nothing but the words of the devil. So he's using this guy. So he came up with something, the Lambda alphabet. So I didn't mention this before, but the version of the book that I read was a version that was republished in 70s. I don't remember the publishing company, but the editor, the chief editor there, wrote the foreword to this copy of the book. His name was E.F. Blyler. He wrote the foreword to the pretty decent introduction. That's where I got the biographical information.
Okay.
He also inserts a footnote occasionally. So he inserted a footnote here when he does analysis of the Lambda alphabet. The editor's footnote describes what follows as fanciful and worthless.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, okay, maybe I don't know. Okay, maybe you're gonna get to this, and maybe we could just like skip ahead on it because. So how does he? So obviously, our alphabet, the European alphabet, is all great and almighty, and it somehow came from Atlantis. Also, hieroglyphs are related to that our language somehow. How does he explain? Are the same with like kanji and things like that?
So basically, what he does here, because this is where he gets heavily into linguistic analysis.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What he does here is he'll take glyphs that look similar or words that have similar
Right. So he cherry picks
syllables or something. Yeah. But again, this was the way they did a linguistic analysis back then.
That's
it's
the only knowledge that they
but
they really had to work with.
The way, and that's basically what he does here. So there's a couple problems with that. So one, just because they use glyphs doesn't mean the glyphs are similar or have same meanings. Glyph languages are very different, just like phonetic languages.
Yeah.
The other one is like saying that the Egyptians must have inherited their language. The thing about Egyptian hieroglyphs is that they are incredibly Egyptian.
Yeah.
Yes, very specific. We don't see that anywhere else in the world.
It is things that only existed in Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
It is based around their environment and their culture and everything. It is totally and completely uniquely Egyptian. For it to have been inherited from someone else, from any other
is insane.
race,
It's absolutely ridiculous.
No
yeah.
And basically he compares like Japanese writing to like Japanese and Chinese writing, not even remotely similar.
Yeah.
They're not.
Right.
Just because they look similar to you, but they're not.
They're not.
He just he's literally this was one of the most tedious parts. He's literally just like, this symbol and this symbol looks similar. We'll forget what they might mean
in that language, but look how like there's only so many ways you could draw lines on a piece of paper in a coordinated way to make it represent a thing. So it's
that's just a bunch of spurious connections between languages. Don't connect to each other. Chapter 8 is the Bronze Age in Europe. So he says there's evidence for 3 different ages in Europe: the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. He says that there was no Copper Age. This is a thing for him. He says, where on the face of the earth are we to find a Copper Age? I will get to that. A more different races and cultures couldn't have come up with bronze implements on their own.
Yeah,
not possible.
It had to be some sort of origin of white superiority.
Talks about quantities of tin appearing on different things. There were 10 kings of Atlantis. You can go to the next picture there. He says on the second one there that could represent a palm tree, and in America the palm tree represents Atlantis.
Does it?
What does that mean?
I don't know where he got either of those.
Dude, I am getting so angry. This is actually starting to annoy me.
The next one.
It's like
where's the palm tree? There's no fucking palm tree. That's not a tree. That's not a tree.
But it's like you think that like as the book would go along, like, these arguments might get better.
No, he's getting less coherent. He's getting less coherent.
Okay. So these are portrayals of ships from 2 different cultures.
No,
that wouldn't be possible unless they were given that knowledge by Atlantis. Those are Atlantis taught them how to make ships.
Dude, I want to see an Atlantis speedboat, an Atlantis yacht. Do you think that's what their billionaires in Atlantis like hung out on, like yachts, like expensive yachts?
Atlantis was the way it's portrayed is there were different, not classes, but different stations. But
so the higher stations have yachts, though.
No, wealth would seem to be pretty equal.
Oh, but how do you decide who gets to be on a yacht and who doesn't?
There is no yacht.
There has to be yachts. John, human beings cannot create anything on their own. Therefore, there must be some sort of ancient painting in somewhere of a yacht. Otherwise, it doesn't exist. What world is that?
I'm gonna throw my mic across this room. I am so angry at
I'm
this.
just using the argument that he made.
I'm so angry at
All
All right,
this.
next slide. It's okay.
Well, I'm not quite there yet,
Oh,
but
okay.
it doesn't
Sorry.
matter. But it's more of this. Different cultures have
Yeah.
this. Thing I'll go back to is the Copper Age. He said, "Where's the Copper Age?" There was a Copper Age. It was called the Chalcolithic. It came after the Neolithic and before Bronze Age.
I thought Chocolithic was the name of a Nicki Minaj album.
Chalcolithic, not Chocolithic.
Oh, sorry.
Is that a real Nicki Minaj album?
Yeah, the Bronze Age did exist. I mean, and like they're talking about the Bronze Age, those didn't all occur at the same times around the world. Same with the Copper Age. Some places didn't even experience a Copper Age. It was
So what is his?
Right, it's almost like society is nuanced.
He didn't
and-
know that there was a Copper Age, and
Yeah, but what's his reason for not wanting there to be a Copper Age? I've come to the conclusion that everything he does has an ulterior motive, and I want to know what this
He
is.
doesn't like American
Let me
pennies.
clarify it more. He says there's no bronze in tin age. So copper is an alloy of tin and bronze.
Yeah.
So since there was no, his argument is since there was no copper or tin age, they just jumped right
There's
to
no
alloying
it
metals.
is the argument
I
of
see.
it's the evolution argument. Just
I
in
see.
just
Like,
in a different way.
they had to have learned bronze from somewhere.
It's that
Yeah, I
fallacy,
see, I
right?
see.
Yeah.
So there is a skip. So suddenly they just jump to steel. Like that's his argument here. They just jump to this
So,
thing.
But
Like,
there
we-
is a Bronze Age, so he
well, there
just
was a
stupid.
logical progression of it. yes.
Chapter 9 is artificial deformation of the skull. Multiple societies and cultures
Jesus.
practice deformation of the skull. This in the next slide shows some pictures of it that he uses to demonstrate his.
Yeah, people.
thoughts
Yeah,
on that.
malformed. Is this so? This is ancient alien shit too, though, right? Yeah,
It's
ancient
very
aliens
similar.
go into this and they're like, "Well, shows they weren't malforming their skulls. What they were doing, what they are, is mixed. It's an alien race intermingling with human race.
All right,
So
guys.
that is interesting. How much they take.
Well,
from-
that's the end for now. We said this was going to be 2 episodes. It's going to be 3.
Oh,
Because
because this is honestly, he's exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
he
this
is.
is one of the worst things I've ever
Guys,
heard
I've been
in my
doing this
entire
for a
life.
year.
How
I've
did
been
you
waiting
make
for
it through this whole book? How did you make it? Like,
It took
this
forever.
is so infuriating.
It's so and, like literally, it's like you believed in him so much when we first did episode 1.
Yeah.
It's like we were behind this guy. Like we were
Yeah.
like, oh, we want him to be.
He's an interesting guy.
This is your Kane set the story up in a like he did it in like a Pulp Fiction-esque way, like where it's out of order. So he gave us the heroic arc at the beginning, and then we had to see his villain arc happen.
Yeah, in the middle, yeah.
right now. And it's gonna end on this. I have a feeling it's gonna end with him still being a villain with us, but we got to remember that he did seem to grow somewhat.
5-day work week, by the
think
way.
that-
He was big on that.
Yeah.
That's something that's like
We'll get there.
carried over to
We'll do positives later. We'll do positives later.
This
For right
is-
now, we all just need to be sad.
No, this is awful though.
yeah.
This is
our Empire
Oh my
Strikes Back.
god.
Part 2 is this is
Yeah.
our Empire Strikes
The
Back.
arguments are getting less coherent as we get deeper in. That's
It's
the
gonna be great
insane
because
part.
next week everyone's gonna get a medal and we're gonna party with like little tiny bear things. Next week's our Return of the Jedi. I hope.
All right, you want to hit the call out?
Yeah, so that's going to be it for now. We'll return next week with the final 2 parts of this book.
Socials.
Will take an hour.
Yeah, socials at Channel 13 Network on your Instagrams, on your TikToks, on your YouTubes. Find us there. Follow us. Consume our content. It's all about them watch hours.
This has been CH13, and we will see y'all next
Public
week.
Access, baby, Part 3. Ignatius Donnelly.